Hi everyone, I'm Ivanka, and I had so much fun with you all a couple of weeks ago, and I was inundated with amazing questions for the Ask Ivanka series that I was really excited to do another Facebook Live chat and answer some more questions. So this time I asked you about being organized and staying on task. Obviously super important for all of you multitasking women and gentlemen. So this is a topic I've really thought about, trial and error on many levels. I've read about, I've obsessed over how to do more in less time, how to be more efficient, and how to generally keep my life a little bit sane. So I do have some tips on this front, and I've accumulated some great ideas over the years from other friends. So thanks for your questions. So the first questions I have here were sent to me on Facebook and on Twitter using the hashtag #AskIvanka series. But as we go through this, please send me more. I'm looking, so in the comments below, write questions, and I'll try and address them as we go through. So the first question is, how do you start your day at work, and do you feel that that impacts the rest of your day? So it does. I'm very formulaic about my routine in the morning. So I like to wake up really early, probably like 5:15 to 5:30. I'll meditate for 10 to 15 minutes. Then I'll shower. I try and get totally ready before the kids wake up, and then I wake up the kids. We have breakfast together as a family, and then I try to take them to school a couple of days a week. I don't always get there every day of the week, and then I come into my office. So I'm sort of fed, I had some great time with my family, and I feel very focused. The first thing I do when I sit down at my desk is I open my notebook, which is this, my Moleskine, which I always have with me, and I write down the top 3 to 5 things that I want to accomplish during that day. And just seeing them there, I think really sort of focuses me on what's more important, because it's easy to get sucked into sort of the minutia of a rapidly filling email inbox or returning calls or just running from meeting to meeting. But just making sure sort of the top level objectives are getting accomplished, I think is really important. So by the end of the day, I make sure that if I've done nothing else, and that's almost never the case, that I've addressed those 3 to 5 things. So that's really helpful. Plus I have a coffee, a big one, a less big one now that I'm pregnant, because I'm not allowed to have too big of a one. Number 2, what is your best tactic for dealing with overflowing inbox? So I think email is officially the bane of my existence. There was a period of time when I loved it, because it's great for scheduling and logistics, but it is brutal at just the amount and the volume of incoming that I receive every day. So I really make an effort to not read things multiple times. You know, the worst is when you've read the same email 4 times because you haven't wanted to deal with it or address it. It's just redundant and a real waste of time. I try to find windows during the course of the day where I respond to emails, so I'm not constantly in meetings checking on incoming and sort of disengaging from the conversation just to sort of look what's happening in my inbox. So I sort of set times during the course of the day where I know that I'll have a small window to return phone calls and answer emails, and I find that that's really helpful. I also used to be on a quest to go to bed with inbox zero, and I still love getting as much done that's time sensitive as possible going into the day. So I really do like going to bed knowing that I've dealt with the major things I have to deal with. But I read somewhere, and I've increasingly thought how true it was, that if you're at inbox zero, you have bad priorities. And I sort of agree with that, because inbox zero is almost impossible to achieve. And normally those last 5 emails aren't that important, yet they sit there, and you do them sometimes just because you're being a little bit obsessive and neurotic, as opposed to doing things that are more spiritually beneficial, and spending good quality time with family and friends. So I'm actually less obsessed with inbox zero, but I do prioritize making sure that I tackle the things that are time sensitive. Otherwise, I go into the next day feeling a little bit overwhelmed. So these are good questions. This is great. Number 3, what is the best way for staying organized on a tight schedule? So I have learned, since I have so many meetings through the course of the day, that I should never schedule 30-minute meetings, even if I know that the meeting will likely be 20 to 30 minutes. Inevitably, when I schedule in 30-minute increments, I go over and it blows the rest of my schedule. So I really try and schedule meetings for an hour, and if a meeting runs short, that's amazing. That's when I end up catching up, and I take that extra 40 minutes and I return phone calls and I deal with things that I need to get done out of the context of meetings. But there was a period of time where my whole day was booked back to back, 30-minute increments, and I would literally live in fear that an issue came up that I didn't have a window of time to be able to handle or tackle. So I think creating breathing room and schedule is super important for really busy people. It allows you to sort of rise above the noise of continuous meetings and be proactive about doing things that are incredibly important, albeit potentially not urgent. And those are the things that often are the highest value and oftentimes have the lowest priority, because we tend to tackle the immediate issues facing us and obviously the urgent things that arise. So that's one tip. Question 4. What is one organizational item you can't live without, and why? This, my moleskin is amazing, and I have this whole system for it. And I was thinking I'd actually do a blog post on it. I've read about various systems, and I've sort of created my own, but I have different ways to sort of denote timely versus not, based on triangles versus squares versus circles that I check. So I have a full analog system for note-taking. And I think then just organizing my calendar and my Outlook, and I actually color code things so that I can look back at the end of the week, and I color code by tasks. So, whether it's a hotel collection meeting, whether it's a construction meeting, whether it's a design meeting, a meeting with my brand team, I like to color code things, so at the end of the week I can sort of see where I spent most of my time, and I can be a little bit reflective on whether I was spending my time in the highest and best way and in the most efficient way. And I found that actually it's really clarifying if sort of I've done that color coding, to really be able to get a snapshot of where I need to refocus and where maybe I should sort of back out and focus a little less. How do I avoid letting the internet consume too much time? I don't know. I'm pretty bad, like most people. My generation, I spend probably more time connected than I should. But I think honestly, the days that I really don't check in are the days that I'm busiest. So being busy sort of means that you're not checking your social media with the same frequency. But I try to find some sort of balance. But I am definitely quite used to, at this juncture, checking Instagram on the elevator. I can't remember the last time I was in an elevator without a phone in my hand. So I'm pretty connected a lot. Thanks for all the great comments, by the way. I actually read them. Okay, so we've got a bunch more questions. Okay, I'm going to try and bang through these. What cluster and distractions do you suggest getting rid of first? So I always find that a clean office is really helpful to me, just psychologically. If I have papers everywhere, it tends to make me a little less focused. So I like a sort of level of order. So in terms of the physical space that I'm working, I appreciate it being sort of tidy and clean, and that enables me to sort of focus better. I also can't listen to music when I work. It's funny, like I have to be really focused. So if music's playing, I become less efficient. So it's something I've learned about myself and try and avoid. I like really being quite quiet and being by myself, and that's where I sort of do my best thinking and working. I also think that for me, sometimes just going and getting outside and going for a walk or going for a run early in the morning, that's when I do sort of my my sort of deepest strategic thinking. So those are sort of moments in my life that I particularly appreciate, that are clarifying and allow me to sort of get rid of the noise and the clutter that's normally infiltrating me. Okay. What apps and programs do you use to stay on task? So I actually don't use many. I found, and I've experimented with everything. I used to love Evernote. I've used a lot of different things over the years, but I find that I really like to write things down, and the way my memory works is if I actually take a pen and a piece of paper and write something down and spend the time, I'm more inclined, it feels more solid and more real than if it's, you know, something I'm typing in. Plus, I think I'm making a concerted effort to spend a little less time with this. So just having, you know, sort of one form of analog interaction is helpful in that regard. So I don't actually use a lot of apps other than Outlook, which is really funny that I still use Outlook, and my scheduling, my calendar. How can I stay on task when I'm constantly putting out fires and being pulled into many projects? So this is one of the harder things, and it is really hard to stay focused when there's a lot of noise. It's really hard to stay focused when you're super passionate and excited and you want to seize every opportunity as they come, and I'm totally guilty of this. You know, I have a habit of sometimes like running toward shining objects, and it takes discipline to sort of pull back and say, this is my bandwidth, this is the amount of capacity I have, and is this project worth my time right now? So sometimes literally writing it down, something you want to do, but recognize that it's not a today goal, it's a tomorrow goal or a next week goal, and having some discipline about that. Because there's nothing worse than starting several things and finishing nothing, or compromising the end result of something that you do complete simply because you're pulled in so many directions or you took on so many commitments that you just didn't get the end result that you were desiring. So I think this is something that really takes a lot of commitment and discipline to really prioritize for yourself what are the goals that you should be accomplishing. And I think sometimes, you know, I have people come to me all the time as their manager and as their boss telling me, look, you've asked me to do 6 different things. Is it okay if I prioritize X, Y, and Z and push those off, the other ones off until next week? And I really appreciate that, because sometimes it's easy to forget when you're delegating what people are working on in any given moment. And it's always good to sort of check in with somebody that you're reporting to make sure that your priorities are reflective with the expectations of your boss. So whether it's prioritizing for yourself or whether it's setting expectations for the person you're reporting to, I think it's really important to stay on task and stay focused on those high value projects. So this was awesome. My team is indicating to me that I have to run, so I'm going to jump off, but please send me more topics that you'd like me to address. I'm going to do this as often as I can. I think this is really cool. So in the comments below, give me ideas for future series, and tell me what kind of questions you'd like me to answer. So thanks for tuning in to Facebook Live.